Hello, my name is Abigail House. This is my presentation for my Midcourse celebration case study, and I will be explaining a little bit about what I saw as far as the client's looks go and what is expressed in the pulse to evaluate this client and try to make some suggestions to help improve their health. On this slide, I included a picture of the client. You can see that she has a medium build, red hair. I wasn't sure, but I did put in that she has some Vata qualities, such as the protruding bones you can see in her collarbone, and her shoulders look pointy. She does have thin lips and is kind of thin looking, like she doesn't have a lot of muscle tissue, and kind of looks like she has small joints to me. The Darshana is a visual assessment, and I've put the obvious qualities that she has, which are Pitta qualities. There we see protruding bones, or I'm sorry, the medium build, red hair. Her skin looks warm and pinkish. She has a receding hairline and a contoured face, and those are all Pitta qualities. This part was a little bit harder for me. I feel like I'm still brand new, so I'm still learning exactly how to tell about the Agni, Ama, and Ojas. I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of Agni, and for this client, I put that she does have Vishama Agni. We see that in all throughout the pulse. There are many Vata gunas, and I put medium Ama. The pulse seems like it has subtle clarities, but for the most part, there's some slight covering and Vata all throughout, which is not correct. We should be feeling Vata only under the Vata finger. And then low Ojas production because of the Vata symptoms, and then just the lack of vitality in her pulse in general, I believe is expressing a low production of Ojas. So for this slide, the question was, would I recommend Amapatana or Agnidipana, and why or why not? And I would suggest Amapatana and adding in some ginger, cumin, black pepper, fennel, and cinnamon if desired. These are all digestive spices. I suggest the client do this for 3 to 4 weeks. And then I also am recommending the Amapatana because it's a way to digest Ama and scrapes kapha out and can help bring balance to the overall physiology. And on this slide, we are discussing foods and spices that we should favor or avoid for this client. I would have her favor heavy, moist, and unctuous foods to help balance out the Vishama Agni. Foods like barley, corn, most fruits and vegetables. It's good to add in some healthy fats like ghee and sesame oil or nuts, and to prefer sweet, sour, salty tastes and warm food or drinks. And then this client should reduce light and dry foods. She put or mentioned that she likes to have a sandwich and chips for lunch. I would suggest changing that to like a dal or something that's more soupy with lots of liquid and is warm and unctuous. And then to just avoid cold drinks, especially iced drinks in general. And on this slide, we will be discussing Santarpana or Apatarna therapy, why I would, why I suggest what I do, which is Apatarpana. And that's because it's lightening. It helps to digest the ama, which I feel is crucial at this point in the client's life. Um, Also, a light diet, even though she is expressing Vata qualities, because there is so much Ama being expressed in the pulse. I believe that it's important to, at least for a couple weeks, do more light foods. And also, I put that it's vital for her to be digesting the Ama that has been built up to correct the imbalance, because at this point, if the ama is not cleared up, I believe that her physiology could easily start to manifest some sort of disease or something else that would not be comfortable for her. So for this slide, we're discussing pathogenesis. This is something that is pretty new to me, so I did my best in trying to decide what I thought, which stage that I thought the client is in. And for this client, I believe that she's in the third stage, which is dosha prakopa. It is the aggravation stage. So she's not showing really any disease or a lot of um, manifested qualities of her condition, although we can see that she has irregular hunger, bloating, and these are signs of vata which we see throughout the pulse, and that is not the correct place for vata. So I'm assuming that her doshas are not in their seats. On this slide, we're discussing dhatus, their correlating shrotas, and what those say about her state of pathogenesis. And this goes in a little bit deeper about what I was talking on the previous slide. I believe that in this aggravation state, the client is showing signs of vata prakopa. We see that with like the indigestion and bloating. Each of the dhatus are expressing vata gunas. So again, that is suggesting that kapha and pitta are moving, and this could further the development of disease. Also, we see signs with the PMS, irregular menses, and both the Rakta and Rasa, which are shown in her Dhatu pulse, are related to blood and their associated srotas. So that's showing me that there could be something going on in her, like, what would it be? Like in the women's health, um, like possibly a cyst on her ovary, or even something worse like endometriosis, or something that is associated with the blood and that area. And she's also showing Meta in the Dhatu pulse. That, I believe, is because of the ama that's been built up. I'm not really sure how to explain that part. All right, on this slide, we're going to be talking about routine, and which would be an ideal routine, what would be an ideal routine for the client. I believe she should try to wake up a little bit earlier, closer to 6 would be the best. And then first thing would be to scrape the tongue, and then eat breakfast, maybe do 20 to 30 minutes of exercise, prepare lunch, go to work, and then during lunchtime, of course, eat lunch and try to take a walk after lunch. And then after getting home from work, whatever extracurricular activities, whether that's the restorative yoga, gardening, whatever the client prefers. And then to have a light supper, and if possible, a walk after supper, and to be in bed by 10. And I understand this could be hard for this client because she is having trouble sleeping, but I think that if she can regulate her schedule and go to bed at the same time, that could help immensely. And also, the suggestions coming up for what herbs and spices to have and stuff like that, because once the digestive system is working more properly and naturally, automatically that should help the client gain the ability to get better rest. So for this slide, we're talking about current exercise program, if there's any changes suggested. And I did suggest more vigorous exercise, 2 to 3 times a week, such as HIIT. And I would also suggest taking a walk after lunch and dinner, like I mentioned in the previous slide. And I believe that these two things could help to enliven the Agni and digest Alma. That would be the goal, at least. For this slide, we're talking about herbal remedy suggestions for diet, and I would recommend Hing stock, which helps strengthen Apana and it stimulates peristalsis. I believe those two things, especially with her showing some symptoms of having problems in the Apana, that it should help, as well as turmeric or haredra, and that is both Agni Deepna and Agni Pachana. It reduces gas, bloating, cramps, which are some of her symptoms, stimulates liver and bile production, and the flow of digestive enzymes. And then lastly would be fresh ginger. It's a very good spice for digesting Alma, and it also helps with reducing gas, bloating, and cramping, and also stimulates the digestive enzymes and is anti-inflammatory. And I think that those things would really help this client. On this page, I just added a couple extra things that I would recommend for this client that are not necessarily Ayurvedic practices, such as cognitive behavioral therapy. There is a channel on YouTube called Therapy on a Nutshell. It's really good for self-guided cognitive behavioral therapy. Otherwise, having a counselor is a great thing, and maybe she should take a class for trauma and or a healthy relationships class just to learn a little bit about what a healthy relationship looks like and maybe help inspire her to get back out there and try to start dating again, potentially. The other suggestion I had was the Prana Breath app. It's called Prana Breath Calm and Meditate app. It has helped me, especially before I learned TM. And if she is not going to be meditating, I think that doing mindful breathing practices would be extremely helpful. And then lastly, I suggest ashwagandha tea at night. And this is highly based off of my own experience, especially with anxiety and unease and not really like having clarity of thought and things like that that are important for our daily lives. So that's why I suggested the ashwagandha tea. We made it to the conclusion. So for this mid-course celebration presentation, I answered several questions about the client, and based on her visual assessment, I decided she has a Vata Pitta Prakriti. I believe she has a low ojas production and a medium to larger high amount of ama, and there is a clear Vata imbalance in the client's pulse. We can see that all throughout. And according to her pulse assessment, I believe that she is in the third stage of Shad Kriya Kal, which is the pathogenesis of disease. And excuse me, lastly, I believe that with some effort and some small changes in her life, that the client can correct the imbalance and restore her natural functions as well as her health and overall happiness. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you enjoyed this presentation.